Michelle Obama is the first African-American First Lady who quickly became a role model for women, an advocate for poverty awareness, and a fashion icon. She went from living in a small bungalow and sleeping in the living room to skipping multiple grades in school and excelling in a high school for gifted children, becoming a successful lawyer, and writing the best-selling memoir of all time. Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 to 9. For my top 10, top 10, 9 to 9. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Michelle Obama, and my take on her top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1, believe.
There are those of us that are born with this sort of thing in us. You know, I write about it in my book because I had to reflect on sort of how did I get here? You know, what were the things in my life that made the difference? And some of it was that I was temperamentally always that kid, always that I'll show you, you know, you give me a challenge, I'll prove you wrong, you know. So people are born with a temperament that, and that's that internal hunger that I'm talking about, you know, and that imagine having a girl like that somewhere in the world who doesn't get to exercise that, where that feeling, that temperament isn't nurtured. For me, it was nurtured, and it started simply with parents who believed in my voice. And I share that with people because my parents weren't wealthy. You know, they were not well connected. They didn't go to college themselves. We were not. We were a poor family. But what they gave me was a sense of belief that my voice, the words that came out of my mouth were clever and interesting, and they were interested in it. So when you start with a foundation where you're telling a kid very early on that they are valuable, that those words in and of themselves can make a difference. It isn't magic. It isn't money. It isn't resources. And that's what, you know, some families miss. You know, there are families who believe that if I can't give my kids stuff, then I should just be quiet and let them be. Well, no, the truth is that teaching a girl, teaching an individual early on how to use their voice and that their voice matters allows them to then be advocates for themselves as they go along.
Rule number 2, own your story.
Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. I know everybody in here has it. It wasn't just the best-selling memoir book of the year. It's the best-selling memoir of all times. And what that says to me, I think it's like now 11.7 million, probably 12 since we've been sitting here, million. What it says to me is that it's such an extraordinary time to be a strong, confident, assured, and above all else, well woman in the world today.
Absolutely. I mean, so many people saw themselves in my story. It's also a time for owning our stories. And I think that's part of what resonated with people.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people came up and said, well, you were so vulnerable. Was it hard for you to tell your story, to tell your truth? There were things you covered that were difficult, like trouble in your marriage and trouble getting pregnant. Was that hard to do? And my response is, no, that's my story. I embrace every aspect of who I am because, as I've said, I like my story. I like all the highs and lows and the bumps in between.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, what we learn from that is people they gravitate to other people's vulnerabilities. Mm-hmm. We gravitate to one another when we see the best and the worst in ourselves because it makes us feel human.
Rule number 3, don't let haters get to you.
We were talking with some of those young women about confidence.
Yeah.
And I think you said something like, don't let the haters get to you, the doubters.
Yeah.
We live in a world where there's people that want to hate whether they do it online from their basement or wherever it is. Do you ever, does that stuff ever get to you?
You practice not letting it get to you. You have to develop protective tools for yourself. And I tell young people, first of all, don't read it. Don't go into that sphere and take in that energy, because that energy isn't even the full reflection of who we are as a people. One of the things I say that it's harder to hate up close. Social media creates a distance that allows people to say things that they probably don't even mean. So why take that in? Why breathe that air? Why drink that juice when there's so many other things that you can focus on? So over the span of my lifetime, it wasn't just the 8 years in the White House, but over the span of a full career and being a mother and all the worries that come with that, and having a solid marriage, you have to learn how to protect yourself emotionally and how to do the things that keep you feeling whole. And so I apply those whenever I can.
What are those things that keep you feeling whole?
Surrounding myself by positive energy, because for every hater out there are 10 other people who are there ready to give you an attaboy. So why don't we listen to those few naysayers and not let the real, true positive energy in? So I learned to do that. I surrounded myself with people who support me, who remind me of my strengths, who build up my confidence.
Rule number 4, respect other people's time.
Before we move to the next slide, I did want to ask you about one aspect of your family that truly is an example of how character building and cohesiveness and planning and discipline are part of many, many African American families. And that has to do with how you would end up going every place early. I loved the story of that and how and why you did that.
Well, again, it gets back to my dad, right? Because he was infirm, he wanted to make sure that he was never the reason why we would be late for anything. Yeah. And he would always be the first one ready. And me, who absolutely adored my dad, I would be the second person ready. And it got to a point where if we had to be somewhere at 5 and it took us a half an hour to get there, he would be ready at 4 so we could be ready to go at 4:30. But then he would start to say, once he got ready at 4, "Are you guys ready?" to my mom and my sister. And they'd be like, "No, you said we're leaving at 4:30. And he would continually back the time up. But that's just an aside. But we spent a lot of time getting places early. And just like this morning, we stayed together at the hotel, and they told me to be ready at 9:25. I was there at 9:10, 9:15.
And that's on time for us. So
And she wasn't ready.
I didn't have to be ready until 9:45. See, these are the conversations that we have that are a result of having a father, where time was important. See, I don't do anything late. I think 8 years in the White House, my staff will tell you, with Tina's chin is over there laughing. It's like, we do not do late. And I have a husband who learned better about that. He was,
He's on Hawaii time.
It's like,
Hawaii time.
dude, you are just starting to get ready and we're leaving at 4:30. It's like, so, that all comes from my father, because being on time was a reflection of control for him. When you're walking with a disability, this was before the ADA, this was before there were access ramps and things like that. You imagine my father thinking when he's going to one of Craig's games, where am I going to park? How far do I have to walk? Where am I going to sit? Will I have to climb up the bleachers? But if I get there early, because he was going to be at every game. He was the dad at everything. He was driving other kids from the West Side to league games, because all the kids who didn't have parents could count on my dad to be at every practice that he could if he wasn't on a shift. So he knew every gym. He knew every parking space.
We didn't see it as that. I think when we were younger, it was just, Dad, come on, chill out, you know. But now in hindsight, we realize that his disability, because he didn't want to be the excuse for us to miss out or to not have something because of something he couldn't do. So he accommodated for us and taught us the importance of respect for other people's time, respect for other people's abilities. It doesn't matter that you're First Lady of the United States. If you've got a room full of people waiting for you and you told them you were going to start at 7, well, doggone it, their time means something. Who knows what it took for them to get to that space, to get in those chairs.
Also, if you want to have more self-love, check out my 254 series. They're free. The links to join are in the description below.
Who am I? No, really, who am I? What do I care about? And the answers to those questions have resulted in the woman who stands before you today.
Doubts don't go away. You just learn how to deal with them.
I want you all to stay true to the most real, most sincere, most authentic parts of yourselves.
Rule number 5, think long term.
One of the things that you have now become famous forever for is that when they go low, we go high.
And that ain't always easy, y'all.
And it's not always easy. And what I wanted to ask you that in this climate where low has taken new lows, how do you maintain a high and not appear to be passive and not lose your equilibrium? Because low is going lower. Yes.
Well, because going low is easy, which is why people go to it. It's easy to go low. It's easy to lead by fear. It's easy to be divisive. It's easy to make people feel afraid. That's the easy thing, and it's also the short-term thing. And for me, you know, what I learned from my husband, what I learned in 8 years at the White House is that this life, this world, our responsibility in it is so much bigger than us.
Right.
So what I have to keep in mind is usually when I want to go low, it's all about my own ego. You know, it's not about solving anything. It's not about fixing anything. It's about seeking revenge on the thing that happened to you.
Yeah.
And when you, as Oprah, you talk about purpose and what it's all about. And my purpose on this planet is not to just take care of my own little ego. You know, there is a bigger purpose for me out there. So when I respond to something, I have to think about that light I'm trying to shine. What role model am I trying to be? What are the words that I'm going to say, and how will it affect young people who are looking at me? That's the bigger picture that puts you in a position to think high. Because if you're thinking about the long term, you don't take the short term measure of getting even with somebody right here and now today, because it makes you feel good in the moment. If it's not going to fix a problem, if it's not going to move the needle, then you're not going high. You're just being selfish.
Rule number 6, be consistent.
One of the things that we try to think about, especially when we work with kids, is consistency. You know, because a kid will believe, you know, a day like we had in Vietnam, you can wake up either feeling changed or you can feel like, did that happen? And then if nothing good ever comes after that, it reinforces the disappointment that they feel on an ongoing basis. It's like, yeah, they came, they saw, the cameras were here, the lights were on, but weeks went by and, you know, I never heard from them again. And that we try to avoid when we work with kids. So when I was First Lady, whenever we had a powerful interaction with a group of kids, whether it was Islington, whether it was in Vietnam, whether it was in Cambodia, it couldn't just be that moment. We made sure that we followed up at least 2 or 3 or 4. There's only so much I can do with this big platform. But you guys as leaders, you know, that consistent return to them will be the thing that they remember. It's not the first visit, it's the second and the third and the 5th visit. So, because that's the kind of repetition that you need with children, with your own children. You know, as you're teaching them anything, they take it in the more you repeat it. Parenting is about repetition. Nope, can't do it. Still can't. Nope, the answer's still no. And probably around the 10th, maybe the 100th time, they'll be like, I guess it's no.
It works.
But the same thing is true with the positive reinforcement that you have in the life of a child. And quite frankly, that's true for any issue that you're taking on. It's that once you take it on, then do it. Show up for the communities that you're serving. Because so many of the communities that we all work in have been disappointed. And they're used to that letdown. They're used to that sort of one hit and then we're on.
Rule number 7, share your true story.
When we drop our guards and we let ourselves become vulnerable, and that vulnerability allows us to share our true stories with each other. Not the stuff on the surface, but the things that really connect us, like how we were raised, the values that we learned around the dinner table, the people who impacted us in our lives, the things that made us scared, the things that gave us courage. That when we share that truth, we can see ourselves in each other a little bit better.
No matter
what,
who
right?
you are.
Your dad is someone that you take the politics out of it. And I had an opportunity to sit by your father at funerals, the highs and the lows, and we shared stories about our kids and about our parents. Our values are the same. We disagree on policy, but we don't disagree on humanity. We don't disagree about love and compassion. I think that's true for all of us. It's just that we get lost in our fear of what's different. So yeah, we've gotta work on that. But I think that this generation coming up, I think they know more than we did. Each generation knows a little bit more. While one can argue that social media is problematic, it's also opening young people up to new ideas, to each other, to other parts of the world. My hope is that they will be more open-minded and more secure in who they are so that they can welcome other people's stories into the mix. But it has to begin with us being willing to be vulnerable and share who we really are with our neighbors so that we're not strangers to each other. And that way we can't let somebody else from the outside tear us apart because we know each other, right? I know you, I've seen you, we broke bread together, I may not agree with you, but I like you, you are my neighbor. That takes work and commitment.
Rule number 8, walk your own walk.
Yeah. What's the best advice do you think you've given your daughters?
Oh, gosh, I give them so much advice. They're so sick of me. Now that they're in college, I have these texting. Did I tell you to remember little things like you are eating some green things, aren't you?
But what is the thing that over the years was a running theme in your house that you said over and over?
What I tell them is what I continue to tell themselves is that they have to walk their own walk. They cannot define themselves by looking at each other or looking at me or their dad. They have to take the time to get to know themselves, give themselves a moment to figure out who they want to be in the world, not who they think I want them to be, not what the rest of the world says about them, but to really think about how they want to shape their lives and how they want to move in this world. So I don't want them measuring themselves by external influences. And for young girls, that is hard to do. That is a very hard thing to do. And everybody should understand that as a responsibility. It's Instagram culture. It drives me crazy.
It was hard with just cable TV when you're watching all the images in music videos. It's, I don't know, exponentially difficult with social media when you're comparing yourself to everybody on social media.
So I constantly have to remind them that they have to live in their own skin. And that takes time too. And I try to make sure they understand that unfolding of understanding who you are, it is a journey of becoming. You don't know it all in your 20s.
Rule number 9, choose the right role models.
When you ask the question, is it necessary to have a hero, a role model? And I think yes, absolutely. The thing we get wrong is who that role model should be. We always think, when we say role model, well, it's got to be somebody famous. It's got to be Julia Roberts or Michelle Obama. But the truth is, as Julia pointed out, the heroes, the role models that have the greatest impact are the people that are surrounding children right there. It's not the president of the United States. It's your mom. It's your neighbor. It's that teacher. And so with that view of what role models are, I think all people do have them if they value who they have in their lives. Everybody has somebody that they can look to. But if we devalue some of that positive input because we don't think that they're important, then we miss out on who our role model is. We're missing the person in our lives that is giving us that encouragement.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is have fun.
This is locked. What's so special about this stuff? Don't you might break it. How do you? Oh. I didn't realize it got so. Let's see. It doesn't make a noise. Hello. Yeah. Hello. We need help on aisle 2. Customer service on aisle 2. Hi. Good. Hi. How are you? It's nice to see you.
Hi, Ellen.
You know what? Sasha needed some earphones. I'm gonna get some for her. How much are these? I'm just picking up stuff. What are you doing? I'm just scratching your back. I'm trying to focus. Okay. Here. Okay. I'm not really itchy. I am looking for headphones though. What do you think? You think I should get? Can you chill out on the itching and help me with this here? Don't scratch him. This is not how you behave in CBS. Stop scratching him. Oh no, scratches. Stop it.
He likes it.
Thank you. Did I feel good?
Yes, it sure did.
It was annoying to me.
We're probably gonna get it cheaper.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from Michelle on how to overcome adversity that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, question of the day, I wanna know who are some of your right role models? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you're still here watching and you promise, you commit, let's go Believe Nation. We don't just watch videos here, we do something about it. If you're gonna commit to taking action today, give me a hashtag Believe in the comments below. I want to celebrate you.
Talking about education, we always talk about classrooms and our experiences and what we can do for young women. Can you tell us more about your experience as a schoolgirl and what it was like, especially to go to university, to Princeton, as one of the very few young Black women there?
Mm-hmm. Well, as many of you know my background, I grew up in Chicago in a working class community. My parents weren't wealthy, so we didn't have the resources to spend on fees at private schools. We went to the neighborhood public school, and I went to public school my entire life. And I was always that student who wanted to get A's. I wanted to do well. I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed excelling. But what I found out is that when you're one of those kids in a community where not everyone has the same goals, I found myself having to walk a bunch of different lines. There were some kids that didn't like kids who were smart and got good grades. There were some kids who criticized the way I talk. They said that I talked like I was white, which was another way of saying that you think you're better than other people. So I had to contend with, how do I get my education when I'm surrounded by people who may have different expectations of me? And those just weren't the kids in the neighborhood. There were teachers I had to confront, teachers who underestimated me every step of the way. Even when I applied to Princeton, I write about in my book, and I tell this story all the time, even though I was at the top of my class and I was a class officer, I was a leader, when I sat down with my high school counselor, somebody who didn't know me but was assigned to work with students to help them apply to college, and I told them my intention was to apply to Princeton, that counselor told me, I don't think you're Princeton material. The person whose job it was to help young people reach their dreams when it came to college saw me, and whatever she saw in me told her that my dreams were too high. And that cut me in a way that even though I continued on, I applied, obviously you know I got in, but I still remember that story. I remember that feeling of doubt, just another adult sort of placing a barrier on me that I didn't even have for myself. So then to enter into an elite school when your high school counselor has told you're not good enough, when all of society sort of looks at kids of color or kids from poor communities or rural communities as not belonging. I, like many others, walked into that school with a stigma in my own head. More young people nowadays call it imposter syndrome. I don't know if they call it that in Britain, where kids like me feel like they don't belong, so they feel like they're faking it. And I had to get over that.
If you want another awesome video in our Black Excellence series, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.